Feral hogs, a growing problem in Missouri Ozarks. That was the headline that caught my attention. I had to read the article, and it seems that there were several theories as to how 30,000 feral hogs have ended up in the Missouri Ozarks down in the Mark Twain National Forest. That's along the Arkansas border. Now, I was interested in that because I used to live down there. And I got to thinking about how do 30,000 feral hogs end up in the Mark Twain National Forest, and I think I may have stumbled onto something. This is my theory. Back in 1978, my husband Harry and I bought 10 acres of land just outside of West Plains, Missouri, down on the Arkansas border, next to the Mark Twain National Forest. Our 10 acres had the house, and it had a barn, a pond, a spring. We had a couple of horses, a donkey, and a mess of pigs on our 10 acres. Now, Harry and I had both grown up in the country. He wanted to put in a garden, and I decided not to because I needed to work on remodeling the house. So Harry went downtown to Aid Hardware on the Courthouse Square in West Plains to buy his seed packets for his garden. Well, I did not see his garden because I was so busy in the house, and we did have 10 acres. And at the end of the growing season, he came to me and said, "Do you want to see my garden?" And I said, "Sure." So I followed Harry past the barn, past the pond, past the spring, and there was Harry's garden. He said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Harry, did you plant anything besides cabbage?" He said, "No, Aid Hardware had a special on cabbage seed packets that I just could not resist." Well, Harry, how many heads of cabbage do you have here? He said, "Oh, 3, 4, maybe 500. Harry, you don't like cabbage unless it's made into coleslaw, and you and I cannot eat that much coleslaw. Only coleslaw. You won't eat it boiled. You certainly don't like sauerkraut. It has to be coleslaw. We cannot consume that much cabbage." He said, "Well, maybe you'll think of something to do with the cabbage." And I did. My little creative energy got going, and I came up with an idea. I took a big head of cabbage and a black magic marker, and I drew eyes and a nose and a mouth and some hair. And then I took some twigs and some cloth and fashioned this thing and stuck it onto the bottom of that head of cabbage. And I created what I chose to call a Cabbage Patch doll. I thought, I can make these, put them in the back of the pickup, drive down to the courthouse square, and sell them out of the back of the pickup. We will make some money out of Harry's fiasco of cabbage. But I could not make the dolls fast enough. The hot sun was beating down on those 500 heads of cabbage, and they were going to rot. So the only thing to do was to get rid of them. Pigs will eat anything. So Harry and I decided to chuck all those heads of cabbage into the pig pen. And the pigs loved it. The next morning, I was working in the kitchen, looked out the window, and something was different about the pig pen. So I went outdoors to investigate. And as I looked at those pigs, I realized something's really strange. The pigs were all bloated. Well, you know how it is for some of you when you get older and you eat raw vegetables like cabbage and you get gas and you get all bloated from that. Well, that's what apparently was happening to all these pigs. They were bloated. And as I stood there looking at them, The little pigs began to float up off the ground. They were so bloated. And then the medium-sized pigs began to come up off the ground and float. And then my prize sow, Petunia, began to come up off the ground. I could not lose Petunia, my prize sow, so I grabbed her by the hind leg to hold her down. But Petunia was so bloated that my feet began to come up off the ground, and I yelled, "Harry, Harry, you have got to call 911, get some help." And we floated up, and then that breeze began to drift us all, the little pigs, the medium-sized pigs, and Petunia and I, we all began to drift towards West Plains. Sure enough, I looked down at one point and there was Porter Wagner Boulevard, the main drag of West Plains. And we floated a little bit farther east, and I looked down, and there's the courthouse square. That's where I was going to make all that money selling those Cabbage Patch dolls. There was also Aid Hardware there across the street from the courthouse, where this whole fiasco started. But then I heard sirens, and I looked, and there was the fire truck coming. The fire truck went underneath me as it headed a little farther east, and I saw it pull in to the Piggly Wiggly grocery store. There were a lot of cars in the grocery store parking lot. Then I remembered it's a Tuesday, and Piggly Wiggly on Tuesdays always has a special on their pickled pig's feet. So I saw the firemen all get out of their truck, and they're holding something, kind of standing in a circle or something, and I think, oh, they have got a trampoline net. I'll be able to let go of Petunia and just they'll catch me safely in the trampoline net. That will work. But as I got closer over the firemen, I saw that what they were holding was not a trampoline net. It was a quilt. After all, this is the Ozarks. And as I looked closer at that quilt, I recognized the pattern of the quilt, Jacob's ladder. So apparently, the fire chief got that new ladder he requested from the city council. As I was over the quilt, the fire chief was saying, "Let go of her, let go of her, we'll catch you safely." So I let go of Petunia, my prize sow, and I dropped, and sure enough, the fireman caught me safely in the quilt. Well, there was some relief that I was back on the ground, and people were applauding because everyone was watching. These pigs continued to float farther east. We were just mesmerized. And then we heard a sound. Lots of sounds. Now, you know how it is when you take a balloon and blow it up as big as you can, and then you let the air out and let go of the balloon, and that balloon will circle up and down and all around. That's what these pigs were starting to do. They were circling up and down and all around. There was an oink oink here, there was an oink oink there, here an oink, there an oink, everywhere an oink oink. And then those pigs were ever so gently coming back to earth and landing and going into the Mark Twain National Forest, there at the edge of the parking lot. The last one to land was Petunia, my prize sow. She looked at me and I said, "Sorry, sorry, here, piggy, piggy, because I can't lose my prize sow." But Petunia looked at me, not with great love, and then she raised that snout nose of hers. She turned 180 degrees, and her little curly tail went straight up, And she sauntered into the Mark Twain National Forest, and I never saw Petunia again, nor did I see any of my other pigs again. Yes, feral hogs, a growing problem in Missouri Ozarks. All because in 1978, Aid Hardware had a special on cabbage seed packets that Harry just could not resist.